I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of, it's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify where you and God in time are best aligned.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that matter.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch until you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DRNIIQ. Just type in DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And here we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Listen. We've got some really important community announcements that are relevant to our leaders, learners, and listeners from coast to coast, starting in LA, where our home station is located. There's going to be a soil testing town hall coming up this Thursday with none other than Erin Brockovich. Remember the Academy Award winning film? Well, the inspiration behind that film is joining my colleague, James Farr, this Thursday, August 14th. It's all going down in Pasadena. The address is 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100 in Pasadena, California. The LA Fire Justice folks have teamed up with James Farr, who is the host of our very own show of record tracking the rebuild of Altadena, Conversations Live, Altadena Rising. He will be joined with Erin Brockovich this Thursday, August 14th, starting at 6 p.m. And it includes a Q&A. And so if you have questions for one of the nation's leading experts when it comes to environmental justice, particularly when it comes to soil testing, she's going to be right there and prepared to answer your questions. And then for our leaders, learners, and listeners in Texas who've been following this wild and crazy redistricting effort that is really intended to be a power grab by the president, by the Texas GOP. You can support the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. Many of those members have fled Texas to try and prevent the Texas state legislature from having the quorum they need to move forward with essentially diluting the power of the people at the voting ballot box, rather, you can text TXLBC25 to 53555 if you want to support, if you want to give to their effort. A lot of these members are having to foot the bill for this activist move. And so any support that you can offer, I'm sure will be much appreciated. Again, you can text TXLBC25 to 53555 to support members of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus that are on the front lines of fighting for democracy. And then also, it's worth noting that the Texas House Democrats are holding the line. There's a We've Got Their Backs rally to support a number of Texas House Dems. I know Congressman Joaquin Castro is a part of that effort that just took place this past Sunday, August 10th. And so hat tip to the Texas Dems who are on the front lines. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, it has been the talk of the nation today and will continue to be the talk of the nation for some time. Let me just note, we're not talking about the Epstein files, but we'll get to that a little bit later. NBC News reporting that that Trump has taken over DC police and plans to deploy the National Guard in an effort to fight crime in the nation's capital. President Trump just today, he announced he's going to deploy approximately 800 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. and federalize the city police in an effort to fight crime. Now, the move, it marks a significant escalation in the president's attacks on the nation's capital. Trump on Sunday claimed that the district was, quote, one of the most dangerous cities anywhere in the world. That's what the president of the United States claimed. I mean, really, just let this sit in, let this settle in for a second. This is the president that is given access to some of the most sensitive information regarding our national security around the world. And he cherry picks Washington, D.C. And this has been disputed. This isn't just me talking. This has been disputed. He says that Washington, D.C., one of the places I call home in this country, is the most dangerous city anywhere in the world. Although the Justice Department said that the crime rate fell to a 30-year low last year. Wonder what that's about. The president also said that he would declare a public safety emergency in D.C., and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, would take command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. Well, 100 to 200 troops out of the 800 activated, quotes, will be supporting law enforcement at any given time. That's what Army Public Affairs has said, adding that troops would have, quotes, an administrative, logistics, and physical presence task. We're going to get into all of this this hour and the next hour. I'll be joined with Alan Orr. He's an immigration law attorney. We have him on a regular basis, and we're delighted to have him on to always help us separate the fact from the fiction. I'm already wondering, how does this, make already complicated mass deportation efforts even worse? But we'll hear from Alan on that front. And then in our second hour, I'm delighted to welcome the former Deputy Mayor of Public Safety for the nation's capital, Dr. Roger Mitchell. He'll be joining me to continue to separate the fact from the fiction and set the record straight. In other news, it's worth noting that at least one person has been killed in Pennsylvania steel factory explosion, while dozens of folks have been injured. We know right now at this hour, NBC is reporting that 10 people were injured in the blast. And a search and rescue operation to find the missing person remained ongoing this afternoon. A second person who was unaccounted for was found and hospitalized, according to Allegheny County Police Assistant Superintendent. Investigators are working to determine the origin and cause of the explosion, but the blast had ignited shortly before 11 a.m. Between two batteries at Clairton Coke Works, this U.S. Steel facility in southeast of Pittsburgh. It annually produces millions of tons of commercial coke, a type of fuel used in steel production. And so we'll continue to keep our eyes on this, but our hearts are with our leaders, learners, and listeners in Pittsburgh that have been impacted by this. From Pittsburgh to Los Angeles, the LA Times is reporting that we're again in uncharted territory. Newsom and the University of California are going to battle against Trump's UCLA sanctions. Just 2 weeks ago, UCLA was optimistic. For months, it has successfully avoided clashing with President Trump as university leaders declined to publicly criticize him, by name at least, over his battle to remake American higher education, first raging against several Ivy League schools. Well, the morning of July 29th, UCLA announced that it had settled a federal lawsuit with students who accused it of discrimination, paying more than $2 million to Jewish civil rights groups and millions more in legal fees. University leaders hailed the action as, quote, real progress to combat anti-Semitism, but privately, they pointed the Trump administration to the agreement, eager to convince the federal officials that they had made good with the Jewish community. Well, that high lasted not a few days, but rather a few hours. It touched off an extraordinary 14 days of rapid fire accusations, investigative findings, and a massive federal freeze of UCLA's research funding, culminated Friday afternoon when Governor Newsom unleashed furious comments in response to a federal demand that the UC pay a $1 billion fine. Yeah, that's $1 billion with a B, over a host of allegations against UCLA: anti-Semitism on campus, illegal use of race in admissions, and policies that allow transgender athletes to compete according to their gender identity. Spokespeople for the Justice Department haven't responded to this, but the escalating events lead up to a decisive moment this week, starting with an emergency meeting of the UC Board of Regents this afternoon. And tomorrow, a federal court hearing will unfold in a pre-existing case that could result in some but not all UC grants being restored. And so we're going to be following this closely. We know so many of our leaders and learners and listeners are students within the UC system. They're alumni of the UC system. This is one of the crown jewels of higher education in the state of California and the world. And so you better believe, as goes the UCs, as goes too many more places of higher education across the nation. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, Alan Orr on the biggest trending news topic of the day.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte. Always a delight to be in conversation with my friend, my brother, Alan Orr, Esquire. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law, and he is a highly sought-after expert on all areas related to immigration. Alan, thanks for joining us.
All right, happy to be here. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Look, I'm just coming off a vacation. I just came back and landed in D.C. to the mess that is afoot here. For folks who are just joining us, USA Today is reporting that President Trump orders the National Guard into Washington and takes over the police. That's right. He declared a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C. He said that the federal government will take over the local police department. The president said he will deploy National Guard troops to fight crime in the Capitol, all while violent crime has fallen 26% in D.C. from the same period last year. That's according to the Metropolitan Police Department. Alan, what's the president up to?
So I think we need to sort a couple of things and sort of give a landscape, because I think one thing that we should also remember is the Epstein files. This is pulling people away from the big news of the Epstein files. So, and then this is sort of a lot of action off of one of his friends having a problem in DC. So that's not enough to sort of say there's a crisis if one of your friends has a problem. There's no statistics behind sort of making this claim. The second thing is the theater of it, right? So as I've discussed, many don't agree with me, but as I know, a president's executive order is just a wish, right? Because he doesn't have the sort of power to do a lot of things outside of the executive branch to sort of manage and fire people and that sort of thing in the Department of Justice. And while those things have happened, they're still in court, so they can still be turned around and fixed later on. The same thing goes with this executive action with regards to the District of Columbia. He said something and he promised some things, but how is it going to be enforced, and what's the relationship between him and the police officers? And that just has not been clear, as you might have heard from the mayor's own press conference later this afternoon saying nothing's changed, right? He basically said these things were going to happen, but cops are still reporting to me. These two people from the White House are reporting to him. We don't know what's going on. So a lot of this is just fanfare and fiction, because in that conference, he had like the greatest hits. He was trans athletes. He was immigrants. He was the border. He was the best president ever. He was the budget. So there was a lot of stuff that wasn't really centered around what's happening in the District of Columbia, which I think is problematic, because the District of Columbia has as many people, in some cases more people, than Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and Vermont, right? We don't have any people in the Congress. So one of the peculiar things legally in this situation is the president's allowed to have this emergency unless Congress stops it. But where's Congress? Congress is out. And the statute that he's using only limits him to have the power for 60 days. So that's also something that says after 60 days, what's going to happen? Are you going to solve for crime in 60 days? There are going to be so many police officers on the street that you can solve for crime. And because I know that the station is centered in California, let's talk about California for a minute, right? He had officers in California, right, for 60 days. It was the National Guard. I think it was 4,000, 700 people from the military. It cost $138 million in total. And what did they solve for? Who did they arrest? Who did they detain? No one. No one. So from a cost-benefit analysis standpoint, doing the same thing in the District of Columbia, when we have a budget constraint, just doesn't seem to make sense to me. And if the unhoused is a problem, as we've seen or we've discussed unhoused people in California, then what you do is you house them. Rather than build profit detention centers, you build facilities for them to live in. And that's a choice. Moving them from the District of Columbia does not solve the unhoused problem. It solves a location problem for you, but not an unhoused problem for me. And my experience, which may also be your experience, is that many of the people who are unhoused in the District of Columbia profess to be vets to me. They say they served in this military. They might not have done their whole tour. They might have done whatever happened to them, but they have some relationship to the military in which they have been forgotten or removed or forgotten. So that's troubling to me. So for me, what I will tell you this is it's part of the narrative that the president is trying to tell about Black cities with Black mayors. And that's something that every Republican should stand against, because this is 100% against local rule. Everything about his action today said that duly elected people should not have control of their own jurisdictions, that the District of Columbia and the council for the District of Columbia that was duly voted in should not be making decisions for the people of the District of Columbia. Because I'm young enough to recall that the District of Columbia wanted to get rid of guns in the District of Columbia. But senators said, no, we can't do that. You can't do that, right? So that's part of the problem that's wrapped up here is nothing says DC statehood like the conversation we're having right now.
You're absolutely right. And we have the fight for DC statehood continues. It's been decades in the making. And when Democrats had control over the House and the Senate, for some reason, they didn't prioritize DC statehood. And this is a part of, it's not the only reason, but this is a part of how we got here. Alan, in addition to, this conversation around making matters worse, and I think, calling out the impacts on the unhoused, on the homeless population, I think that's an important data point. But talk about how these actions, if the president actually makes good on his wish list that's in this EO, how does it make matters worse when it comes to these mass deportation efforts, these ICE raids?
Okay, Black people. I love Black people. So let's talk about Black things in the District of Columbia. District of Columbia is one of the largest populations of Ethiopians and maybe Eritreans outside of the home countries, right? So there's a large influx of foreign nationals in the area of the District of Columbia. And what he has basically said and given them the right to, he said, go out and police and get all these people off of the street, right? So we're going to see, because they're not making that number, 3,000 a day, a lot of arrests in the District of Columbia of people who appear to not be American for whatever reason that means. So therefore, you're going to see a ramp up of Black immigrants being detained, because there are a lot of Black immigrants in the District of Columbia. So for people who are in the District of Columbia or going through the District of Columbia or anywhere else, let's just have this conversation. Once again, if possible, carry your passport. If you don't have a passport, or if you have a passport and a passport card, carry either of them. If you don't have either of them, if you have a real ID, have a real ID. If you don't have those things because you are a visitor to this country, then have your immigration documents with you on all times. Because the District of Columbia, while a lot of people, is fairly small. I can walk the District of Columbia from corner to corner in a day. They're going to do a lot of policing really quickly, and they're going to know which neighborhoods to go in. And the collateral damage is going to be a couple of things. Black immigrants and Black youth are going to get arrested, are going to be charged with felonies, and are going to be removed from the labor market for a long term because, as we know, it's a federal area, and some crimes can be held at a state level and at a federal level. And because these are federal law enforcements, they're going to enforce the federal crimes.
I just want to put a finer point on that, Alan, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I know there are folks out there that will say, well, you know, I have my green card or I'm a naturalized citizen, I should be fine. I think it's worth noting that we have seen case after case after case of so-called administrative errors, of folks who are in process or folks who have their paperwork and they sometimes just suspected of being here illegally, suspected of being undocumented. This is an administration that's willing to act first and maybe ask questions later.
Well, I think there are a lot of things. The grace of UCIS used to be focused on actual criminals, and now it's focused on a number, and they're going to arrest people wherever they can. As of last Friday, the service has announced, you know, in the past, since I've been an immigration lawyer, if someone married a United States citizen and they entered the country legally, meaning they came on a student visa, they overstayed, and then they got married 10 years later, the government would not arrest them. Because if you arrested them, they would go to immigration court. And in immigration court, they would have relief. So the immigration judge would then give them relief. And then they would get out. An administrative nightmare to do that, right? So just let them process. There's no fines. There's no penalties. The Trump administration on Friday said some of those individuals who have cases pending, who have had cases pending for a while, will in fact be arrested to go through this administrative process to be in a backlog of a court system of over 4 million cases. And he fired some judges just last week so that when they get to that court case, they will have already had their green card because they're married to a United States citizen. What sense does that make?
Yeah. When we come forward more with Alan Orr, our immigration legal expert and the founder of Orr Immigration Law, so many headlines that are trending today, including one from Newsweek that says that ICE detained a green card holder returning from vacation after 23 years in the United States. How common might this be? We'll ask Alan when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Broward School's Black Superintendent Dr. Howard Hepburn in Florida says the new school year is off to a smooth start.
It's a great day, a great first day of school.
Changes include 4 elementary schools becoming K-8 academies and a teacher vacancy rate under 2%. Security remains a priority. Rapper Snoop Dogg's Death Row Records cannabis is now in Ohio, available at Pure Ohio wellness locations in Dayton and London. A wider statewide rollout is coming soon. And the House Oversight Committee will hold a September hearing with D.C. officials after President Trump announced federal control of the city's police and plans to deploy the National Guard. GOP Chair James Comer says the panel will meet with Attorney General Brian Schwab, Council Chair Phil Mendelssohn, and Black Mayor Muriel Bowser. It's unclear if the move was coordinated with local leaders. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The closure of the 710 freeway in Long Beach is really doing a number on the drive. It's shut down at Anaheim Street for both directions. The northbound side, we are seeing delays here, getting away from Gerald Desmond Bridge. The southbound side loading up away from Long Beach Boulevard. It's also affecting travel along Pacific Coast Highway. This is eastbound with delays from before Highway 103. And it's also affecting our surrounding surface streets as people are seeking alternates, especially Alameda Street. That could be a good alternate for you. Also, Magnolia Avenue could work well. The 110 is another option for you to avoid the 710 freeway.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. and their weight. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford was supposed to make his first appearance on the practice field today, but he did not. Stanford was on the sidelines again in street clothes. The 37-year-old Stafford has been diagnosed with a slipped disc in his lower back. At the moment, the Rams don't know if Stafford will be healthy for the Rams season opener September 7th against Houston. Cleveland Browns coach Kevin Stefanski said he will decide on Wednesday or Thursday on who his starting quarterback will be for Saturday's preseason game at Philadelphia. Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders is the talk of the NFL preseason after his impressive start Friday at Carolina. Deion's son led 3 touchdown drives in the Browns' 30-10 win. Sanders capped 2 of the scoring drives with touchdown passes, and he had no interceptions. Things are starting to get very interesting in Cleveland. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah,
Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey!
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
If you're an adult in need of accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You can earn one for free in as few as 5 months online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai. He is Alan Orr Esquire, founder of Orr Immigration Law, and one of our More Perfect Union contributors. We've been talking about one of the biggest trending stories today the president's executive order to take over DC law enforcement. We know that this president has not been shy about trying to take over the law enforcement functions by nationalizing or federalizing the National Guard in places like Los Angeles. Well, guess what? Now it's DC, and tomorrow it could be a community near you. Alan, how concerned are you that we're watching, sort of a tour beginning to take foot across the country, where this president's going to take the same tactics to other cities with Black mayors, with Black people, with Democrats in the majority? What say you about this really terrible trend that seems to be emerging?
Yeah, so I think it's a warning. I think it's beyond a trend. It's going to happen. I think now's the time to be prepared. The difference is that the District of Columbia is not like other states. It has a unique relationship with Congress and the ability of the president to do certain things under this home rule relationship that doesn't happen in other cities. And even in LA, in California, there was the friction, but that was really more about immigration than it was sort of about the story that he's telling right now. Because in LA, the concept was, I'm protecting citizens, right? The message in DC is, I'm getting criminals, even if they're American citizens. So the constitutionality of it changes a little bit. And the words that he said was, they have the right to do whatever they need to do, right? The sort of fighting back that happened at the Navy Yard, he would say, they have the right to do whatever they need to do. So it really speaks about policing power. And, Gene Shapiro, who's not the president, got up and called people thugs and whatever. And they started talking about them. And when they say them, and they're in the District of Columbia, I know they're talking about me and people who are like me, who are Black and brown, right? And when they were sort of talking in this run of greatest hits of all these mayors, well, they didn't even say the mayors, they said the cities, and all the cities speak to Black people and to mayors. So that was the roadmap they're telling you. So this is a test. And what I think the call is for people to stand up now and say, this can't happen here. So this means everybody. And if you are a Republican, which I was at some point in my life, and you really believe in the Republican principles, then you don't think the president should have powers in states to control places that were duly elected, because that just undermines democracy. If you didn't win in that place, then you run the election next time you win and you change the rules. But the concept that the president is going to now make decisions in states for which he does not live and was not voted to run for and did not even vote for him for president in many cases is foolishness. Because around the corner, I hope we have another type of Democratic president and another type of attorney general that comes in and cleans all this stuff up and doesn't sort of in the same sort of quick way and effectiveness that the Trump administration has done in 6 months.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the Democratic governor of North Carolina does about this next story. ICE has detained a green card holder returning from vacation after being in the U.S. for 23 years. A Filipino immigrant and green card holder with prior criminal charges for distributing controlled substances was detained at an airport and is currently in ICE custody. Sonny Lasquette was detained after a vacation to the Bahamas on July 28th, of all places, at Charlotte Douglas International Airport in Charlotte, North Carolina, according to his relatives. How concerned should Americans, should green card holders be returning from vacation from different parts of the world? And maybe, many years ago, there was something on their record that maybe never got expunged. How might stories like this that typically go under the radar, how might stories like this explode if we don't pay attention?
So they're definitely going to explode because we've already talked about the quotas that the government's trying to reach of 3,000 arrests a day. So the first thing I will say about this person is they might not have had all of the best legal counsel with regards to traveling internationally. If you have a green card right now, sorry, my dog wants to also participate. If you have a green card, hey, if you have a green card and you have ever been arrested, now is not the time to travel internationally. Now is not the time to travel internationally. Now is not the time to travel and try to naturalize, because those things are not going to be okay. If the government can arrest you because you have a prior drug conviction or any other felon, then you will be placed in removal and you will lose those benefits. And once again, maybe in a removal proceeding, you might have relief, meaning you're married to a U.S. citizen, you can do cancellation of deportation, generally things that were not functionally they wouldn't do because they knew there'd be some relief, then they're just moving away from it. So not smart to travel with any type of drug. If you've been charged with drugs, drug possession, drug paraphernalia, that is the kiss of death for even green card holders. Do not travel internationally. Do not get arrested. Do not have any interaction with ICE at all, right? Those are the people that, once again, you should be staying home for the next 3 years as much as possible to avoid being in those caught ups. If you have a green card and you don't have any of those charges, and you're among the 800,000, 600,000 people who live in this country who pay taxes, who never vote, now's the time for you to naturalize. Naturalize to ensure that you're never going to lose your green card and you don't have a record. Go see an attorney and say, can I naturalize? In many places, in DC, it's taken like 2 months. In other places, it's taken 6 months. But once you get that naturalization, it's a seal that if you have a drug possession charge or drug paraphernalia or something else happens in your life, you won't be removed from a country that you know. So the reason that she probably had the green card for so long is because she had the drug arrest and she knew if she naturalized, that could potentially cause a problem for her. Why someone did not say to her, this is the same reason you should not be traveling internationally, is a problem. Anytime you leave the United States, even if you're a United States citizen, even if you're United States citizens, you come back in through Customs and Border Patrol, and they have the right to look through your devices to investigate you for the safety of the country. So traveling outside of the border always exposes you, even as a United States citizen, to inspection. And that's why right now, for us, immigration attorneys are telling people, if you travel, don't take your computer with you. Don't take any electronic devices, social media. If you're a green card holder, for sure, don't give them anything to sort of look to say that you said something against the president or the administration. But if you are an American citizen still, don't allow them to have that access to your person or your privacy, because that's the moment that they have the reason to gain access, to get in your computer to see what sites you've been to or what you're doing. Don't have the phone have to put the code in, not your face recognition, right? All those little device things that allow you to have free access to your computer, take them off if you're crossing the border. And if you don't need your computer, leave it at home.
Look, this is about not just knowing your rights, but this is about how you keep yourself safe. This is how you keep your family safe. One thing that you didn't mention today that I know you've mentioned many times before we've been on the show is make a plan. Mm-hmm. Make a plan, because, we live in a time where, unfortunately, it is a act first, ask questions later. And that's a big maybe in terms of later, right? And so what happens, to your home and your possessions? What happens to your loved ones, your children? What happens to your animals? What happens to all the things that you are responsible for in the meantime? Don't leave it to chance. Make a plan.
Right. And some of these things are flexes for sure. I mean, listen, I'm a lawyer, and I've said this before on the show. The law lane to judicial lane is slow. So what the president is doing in a lot of cases, or the administration, or even these ICE officers, is flexing on you, right? Compromising your rights. But the question is, when will you be made whole? If you can ever be made whole, and can you survive to live to that circumstance? And did you do something after the flex that adds fuel to the fire? So once again, in this space, if there is an ICE officer, or you're at the border and you're trying to get into the country, you don't get to tell the border officer what you're not going to do, right? You can ask for a lawyer, you can remain quiet, all those things, all the constitutional rights still go there, but they still have the right to go through your devices. And if you don't let them go through your devices, they can confiscate the device and still go through it later through their own technology. So knowing in the moment how to respond, to live, to have some repercussions is super important in these cases. And that's part of what's going to happen in DC right now, specifically in these Black communities, is people need to make decisions about how to live more together and more in community, because I will tell you that the Black youth should be very concerned right now about being on the street at night, just because of the nature of it, right? It's like, do the right thing. It's hot, things are going to happen, and it's just crazy. And the cops are going to escalate rather than de-escalate. And that is not policing. And if there's anybody to listen to this station that believes that more police solve for crime, tell me in history where that has happened.
We certainly know that has not been the case in Los Angeles and so many places across the country. In our remaining minutes while we have you, Alan, you're the right person to ask this question to. I know that a court recently ruled that cops can't stop and frisk you if they suspect you have a gun. The ruling seems to make clear, however, that cops can still stop and frisk a person for existing while black. So stop and frisk is not dead. Talk to us about how, again, if President Trump's efforts here in DC are successful, might we see stop and frisk return with a vengeance?
So, I mean, your courts, the California courts, have upheld that they're not supposed to be doing this in ICE investigations, that you're not supposed to be identifying people because of their skin color. But when questioned, ICE, even Tom Homan on television said, they identify people by the way they look and the language that they speak. So that's clearly racially profiling. So in this administration, we can be a fiction and say it doesn't exist. They don't see color, but that's a crap, right? Let's just move away from that. They're going to see color. They're going to see that. So part of what I've advised, as I did here, is to make sure that you have your documents on you because you will be stopped. After you present your documents, that tells what happens next. Because if you have the documents and you have your passport and then they decide to arrest you, then catalog that because that's a false arrest and those things should not happen. Or if you're a visitor and you have all your paperwork and they're harassing you, document all that stuff so they can be followed up on later. These things are going to happen and they're already happening. And they're happening under the guise of the president saying, I want you to do this enforcement. Because the issue is going to be, in some cases, that it's going to be after the fact, right? So they're going to plot a bunch of people, and then they're going to be like 50 of those people who are undocumented. And they're going to say, yeah, we knew that this was a crowd of people that were undocumented. We weren't going after them because they were Latin. We weren't going after them because they were black. It was an immigrant bar. It was an immigrant community. It was an immigrant restaurant. It was a Italian restaurant. It was a Mexican restaurant in the District of Columbia. It was a dry cleaner, right? All of those things sort of speak to the nature of what they're going to sort of back out of it with. And so that's one of the hard things that sort of happened in law, was that you're no longer to just point to the result. You have to show the intent. And showing intent in many cases is hard to prove. And that's what makes discrimination cases really hard to win in a lot of cases, and specifically in this sort of arena. So yes, be concerned. Yes, be smart. Know that profiling will exist. And if you can de-profile yourself, that is also smart, right? That's also smart. If you speak English and Spanish, when you're in public, choose English, right? Choose English, right? I'm not trying to tell you to not be who you want to be. You can be who you want to be, but you also can avoid having yourself in a situation that you're going to have to litigate your way out of. It could cost you money and time and confusion. So make smart choices with regards to where you are, how you go. If there are places where you know there's a lot of undocumented people, I would not go there. Now would not be the time to put yourself in a situation where you'd have to go there. And one of the things that really happened, they sort of talk about DC, is stay home. Stay home and don't spend your money. Keep your money and stay home. It's time to teach a lesson to everyone, because if you don't spend your money in District of Columbia, they don't get taxes, right? I mean, they'll get your taxes otherwise, but be smart about your money and be smart about where you go, because you don't want to be on the streets when the Gestapo's out and the conversation is, we need you to arrest 100 people tonight. We need you to arrest 200 people tonight.
Our thanks to Alan Orr, our resident immigration expert and contributor to A More Perfect Union. Where can people go to follow you and tap into the tips, tools, and resources that Orr Immigration Law can offer?
So today I put out a flyer about how to get your kids to make sure you have legal representation for your kids or any real property. And that's Alan Orr Esquire on Twitter and Alan Orr on Instagram, and you can just find me and Alan Orr on Blue Sky. And I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff about immigration and know your right stuff with immigrants, but it also applies to Americans.
Our thanks to Alan Orr. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The Fourth Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The Fifth protects your right to remain silent. And the Sixth gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Happy summer, everybody. Look, summertime is one of the best times to travel someplace, even if it's around the block. Travel someplace, visit family and friends. But what makes for a good house guest? I saw this piece on NPR.com and absolutely had to share it. It was a piece on why good house guests don't actually make themselves at home. I know a little bit of something about good house guests. Like so many of you, I've been a house guest. Like so many of you, I have frequent house guests. But with the summer slowly winding down, a lot of folks have been hoping to use the last of their sweet vacation time to get out and visit friends and family. But etiquette expert Elaine Swan, she has a lot of good tips on being a star house guest. She says it really isn't all that complicated. Swan, who runs the Swan School of Protocol, an etiquette training program, she answers a lot of tricky questions about staying at loved ones' places and how to be a guest who gets invited back. Some folks ask, for example, is it rude to ask my friend if I can stay at her place if I'm passing through her neck of the woods? Well, Swan shares a very helpful rule. She says, as long as you feel comfortable hosting that person in your home, you shouldn't feel sheepish about asking to stay with them when they're visiting town. As to how long is too long for a visit, well, Swan says you should keep your visit short and sweet. 4 days and 3 nights is generally ideal, unless you're visiting for a larger occasion like a holiday, where she says a long weekend type visit is the sweet spot. And when it comes to spending time with your host, you might wonder, well, a lot of people wonder, how do you get on the same page? If you want to spend time with them, but you also want to do your own thing, like how do you navigate that? Well, Swan says, once you have a visit on the books, be proactive, be communicative about the specifics of your stay to avoid any unnecessary awkwardness. Are you hoping that your buddy can take some time off to hit the theme park with you? Is your partner's family the type that loves to cook for people, or should you plan to get your own meals? These are all really great questions, and you shouldn't be shy about getting on the same page with whoever it is that you're going to visit. Should you bring a gift? Sometimes folks forget to bring gifts for their host. Well, some etiquette rule books advise never to show up to someone else's home empty-handed. But Swan maintains it's fine. It's fine if you don't have something ready for your host right away. Just be sure to give them a gift by the time you leave. And so you don't have to have the gift in hand when you arrive, but if you're staying, several days, leave them a little something, even if it's a little gift card, just to say thank you. I love taking the folks that are hosting me out to dinner because it's just great to sort of decompress and break bread over a meal. But if they may not physically be there, leaving them a little note and a gift card always does the trick. And then lastly, somebody asked, is it okay to ask the host if I can use their car? Elaine Swan, she says, don't rely on your host for transportation. Don't impede on their personal schedule. Instead, make sure that you're self-sufficient. That's the best way to be a house guest. Those are just some of the answers to some of the most frequently asked questions among house guests. But hopefully after hearing this, we can all build a more perfect union by being a more perfect house guest. When we come forward in our next hour, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Roger Mitchell. He's the president of the National Medical Association and president of Howard University Hospital, but he also is the former deputy mayor for public safety and justice for Washington, D.C. What a day to get the insights and perspective from someone who has been on the front lines doing the job that the president now says he intends to do here in the nation's capital. We'll talk to him, and we'll also get into some of the other biggest trending headlines of the day when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The Texas House again failed to reach quorum after Democrats left the state to block GOP-backed redistricting they say would suppress Black and brown voters.
You can go to another city, another state, even another time zone, but you cannot escape your responsibility to the people of Texas. Eventually, you will be here.
The maps backed by President Trump could give Republicans up to 5 more U.S. House seats. Rapper YNW Melly's Florida retrial in his double murder case is delayed until 2027.